Good evening. This is All India Radio. I'm Anubha Rohatgi and with me is Reshma Tiwari with the evening news. The headlines. Beating the retreat ceremony held with musical extravaganza at Vijay Chowk in national capital. Over 1,000 indigenous drones dazzled the sky to mark the event. Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlights strong relationship between India and Israel on 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Campaigning gains momentum for first two phases of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Over 165 crore doses of COVID vaccines administered in the country so far. Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia virtually reviews COVID-19 situation and vaccination progress with eastern states. Government says over 7,400 Air India employees will get EPFO cover for social security benefits. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Lok Sabha Speaker convenes all-party meeting tomorrow ahead of the budget session of Parliament. India supplies fourth batch of medical assistance to Afghanistan. In tennis, Ashley Bharti wins her first Australian Open title, defeating Danielle in women's singles final. Rafael Nadal to take on Daniil Medvedev in men's singles summit clash tomorrow. As the number of COVID-19 cases is rising rapidly in several parts of the country, we appeal to our listeners to be vigilant and to get fully vaccinated and help others, including children between 15 and 18 years, to get vaccinated. With the new Omicron variant of coronavirus causing concern, please continue to follow these three simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011 239 78046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. The Beating the Retreat ceremony was held at the historic Vijay Chowk in national capital this evening. 1,000 drones dazzled the sky above Delhi for the first time ever as part of a drone show which was the highlight of the Beating Retreat ceremony. Our correspondent reports that the show, which involved 1,000 drones built through indigenous technology, was organized by the startup Bot Lab Dynamics and supported by Indian Institute of Technology Delhi and the Department of Science and Technology. Synchronized background music was also played during the drone show. We have a report.
The drone show was made a part of the Beating the Retreat ceremony for the first time to commemorate 75 years of independence being celebrated at Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. During the 10-minute drone show, the government achievements were showcased through many creative formations in the darkest sky. Now, India is the fourth country after China, Russia and UK to carry out such a large-scale show with 1,000 drones. A total of 26 performances enthralled the spectators with foot-tapping music played by the bands of Indian Army, Navy, Air Force and Central Armed Police Forces. Besides, a number of new tunes were added to the ceremony to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. These include Kerala, Hind Ki Sena and Ae Mere Watan Ke Logon. The event came to a close with the ever-popular tune of Sare Jahan Se Acha. Anand Kumar, AIR News, Delhi.
President Ramnath Kovind, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and Chiefs of Army, Navy and Air Force and others witnessed the show. Martial musical tunes with Indian fervour were the flavour of the ceremony this year. The Beating the Retreat is a centuries-old military tradition dating from the days when troops disengaged from battle at sunset. As soon as the buglers sounded the retreat, the troops ceased fighting, sheathed their arms and withdrew from the battlefield. It is for this reason that the custom of standing still during the sounding of retreat has been retained to this day. Colors and standards are cased and flags lowered at retreats. Drumbeats recall the days when troops lodged in towns and cities were recalled to their quarters at an appointed time in the evening. Based on these military traditions, beating the retreat ceremony creates a mood of nostalgia of the times gone by. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed confidence that the mutual cooperation between India and Israel will continue to reach new heights. In his message on the 30th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Israel, Mr. Modi said the history of the relationship between both the countries is very old. He said there has been a strong relationship between the people of India and Israel for centuries.
जब भारत अपनी स्वतंत्रता की 75वीं वर्षगांठ इस वर्ष मना रहा है, जब इजराइल अपनी स्वतंत्रता की 75वीं वर्षगांठ अगले साल मनाएगा और जब दोनों देश अपने राजनयिक संबंधों की 30वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहे हैं, 30 वर्ष के इस महत्वपूर्ण पड़ाव पर मैं आप सभी को फिर से बधाई देता हूं। मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि भारत इजराइल दोस्ती आने वाले दशकों में आपसी सहयोग के नए कीर्तिमान स्थापित करती रहेगी।
In Uttar Pradesh, a high-pitch electoral campaign is going on for the first two phases of the 7th phase assembly elections. Star campaigners and prominent leaders of various political parties are engaged in public rallies after finalization of the candidates for the first phase. The door-to-door canvassing and virtual appeals to the voters also continue. More from our correspondent.
Senior BJP leader Amit Shah held a door-to-door campaign in Deoband in Saharanpur and Muzaffarnagar Sadar Assembly constituencies. Addressing a party event in Muzaffarnagar, Mr. Shah said law and order situation has improved in Uttar Pradesh in the last 5 years and the state has embarked on the path of development. The party's national president Jagat Prakash Nadda held a door-to-door campaign in Bareilly and Etawah districts. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath campaigned for the party candidates in Muradabad and Bagpat. BJP leader Smriti Irani also addressed a party event in Meerut where the polling will be held in the first phase. Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav and Rashtriya Lokdal Chief Jayant Chaudhary also addressed a joint press conference in Ghaziabad. Meanwhile, Aam Aadmi Party released its fifth list of 40 candidates for the upcoming assembly elections. The party has fielded Rakesh Pandey from Varanasi and Vijay Kumar Srivastav from Gorakhpur. Aditya Shukla, AIR News, Gorakhpur.
The picture of the electoral battle in the first phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh became clear with mostly multi-cornered contests on cards after withdrawal of candidature on Thursday. In this phase, there are 623 candidates in the fray for 58 seats across 11 districts, which will go to polls on the 10th of February. The second phase of polling in Uttar Pradesh will be held on the 14th of February in 55 assembly constituencies across 9 districts. Scrutiny of nominations took place today for the second phase. The last date for withdrawal of candidature will be the 31st of January. The third phase of polling in the state will be conducted on the 20th of February in 59 assembly constituencies across 16 districts. The last date for filing of nominations is the 1st of February for the third phase in Uttar Pradesh. The filing of nominations is also underway for the fourth phase of assembly polls in the state. Polling for the fourth phase will be conducted on the 23rd of February in 59 assembly constituencies across 9 districts. Meanwhile, political activities have also begun in other poll-bound states of Goa, Uttarakhand, Punjab and Manipur, with the party leaders deliberating in marathon meetings to finalize their electoral strategies and formations even while giving shape to the list of candidates. The single-phase polling in Goa and Uttarakhand will be held simultaneously on the 14th of next month, along with second phase of assembly polls in Uttar Pradesh. Polling will be held for 40 seats in Goa and 70 seats in Uttarakhand. Scrutiny of nominations for the single-phase polling in the two states took place today. The last date for withdrawal of candidature will be the 31st of January. The single-phase polling in Punjab will be held on 20th of next month, along with third phase of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Assembly polls in Punjab will be held in 117 assembly constituencies. Punjab Congress President Navjot Singh Sidhu filed his nomination papers today for the upcoming Punjab Assembly elections. Mr. Sidhu will contest elections from the Amritsar East seat. He is the sitting MLA from this constituency. Shiromani Akali Dal has fielded senior Akali leader Bikram Singh Majithia from Amritsar East Assembly seat against Navjot Singh Sidhu. Mr. Majithia filed his nomination papers yesterday. BJP has fielded Dr. Jagmohan Singh Raju from this seat. The chief ministerial candidate of Aam Aadmi Party, Bhagwant Mann, filed his nomination papers from Dhuri Assembly constituency in Sangrur district today. Mr. Mann is presently Member of Parliament from Sangrur Lok Sabha seat. The Uttar Pradesh State Election Commission has banned the coverage of exit polls in both print and electronic media from 7 a.m. to 10th of February to 6:30 p.m. on 7th of March. In a statement, the Election Commission has warned of strict action in case of a violation, making it a punishable offence with a 2-year imprisonment or fine or both.
India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed the 165 crore 60 lakh mark. The Health Ministry said more than 53 lakh vaccine doses were administered today. The ministry said more than 1 crore 16 lakh precautionary doses have been administered to the eligible beneficiaries so far. The country reported over 2 lakh 35,000 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The national recovery rate stands at 93.89%. The Union Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia today reviewed public health preparedness for containment and management of COVID-19 and national COVID-19 vaccination progress with 5 eastern states of the country. Dr. Mandavia virtually interacted with state health ministers and principal secretaries and additional chief secretaries, as well as the information commissioners of Odisha, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and West Bengal. During the interaction, the health minister said that the fight against COVID is a joint effort and joint responsibility of the centre and states, and they have faced this public health challenge with a collaborative spirit. The Union Health Minister reiterated his advice for all states to fully and effectively utilize the ECRP2 funds for strengthening the existing healthcare infrastructure and create new as per requirement. Dr. Mandavia said that irrespective of the COVID variants, the test, track, treat, vaccinate and adherence to COVID-appropriate behavior continue to remain the tested strategy for COVID management. Highlighting vaccination as a critical tool for pandemic management, Dr. Mandavia advised the states to accelerate vaccination of all eligible population and those whose second dose is due. In view of a slight improvement in the COVID situation in Karnataka, the state government has announced some relaxation in COVID restrictions. It has announced to lift the night curfew and reopen schools for students of classes 1st to 9th from Monday. The decision was taken at a high-level meeting chaired by Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai with health experts, ministers and senior officials in Bengaluru today. More from our Bengaluru correspondent.
Based on the technical committee report, the government has decided to allow 100% occupancy in hotels, pubs, bars, restaurants and malls. However, only 50% of occupancy will be allowed in cinema halls, multiplexes, swimming pools, gyms and sports complexes. Temples will also allow prayers with 50% capacity. As per the new COVID guidelines, marriage functions are allowed with 300 people in open space and 200 people in closed space. Government officers can work with 100% attendance of the staff. However, restriction on protest, religious congregations, sit-in demonstration and political gatherings will continue. Minister for Primary and Secondary Education B.C. Nagesh said if positive cases were reported in classes, only those classes will remain closed and not the entire school. R. Murthy, AIR News, Bengaluru.
The government has said that the social security benefits will be provided to around 7,453 Air India employees for whom contributions have been filed by Air India with EPFO for the month of December 2021. The Labour and Employment Ministry said these employees will receive extra 2% employers' contributions in their Provident Fund accounts at 12% of their wages. The government has issued notification for fire alarm system and fire protection system in passenger compartment in buses. The Road Transport and Highways Ministry said a water mist-based active fire protection system and a standalone fire alarm system for buses have been designed to manage the temperature in the passenger compartment within 50 degrees centigrade. The ministry said this amendment has been undertaken in consultation with stakeholders and experts from the Centre for Fire, Explosive and Environment Safety.
The government has proposed to allow modification and replacement of diesel engines with CNG and LPG engines in case of Bharat Stage BS6 vehicles less than 3.5 tons. As of now, retrofitment of CNG and LPG kit is permissible in motor vehicles under the BS4 emission norms. In its notification on the 27th of this month, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways has laid down the type approval requirements for retrofitment. CNG is an environment-friendly fuel and will reduce the emission levels of carbon monoxide, hydrocarbon, particulate matter and smoke as compared to petrol and diesel engines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has lauded the first ever goods train that reached Rani Gaidinliu railway station in Manipur's Tamenglong district. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said that now Manipur's connectivity will be enhanced and commerce will be boosted. In response to a tweet by the Minister of Development of Northeastern Region, G. Kishan Reddy, the Prime Minister said transformation of the Northeast continues. Mr. Modi said wonderful products from the state can now travel all over the nation.
You are listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Beating the retreat ceremony held with musical extravaganza at Vijay Chowk in national capital. 1,000 indigenous drones dazzle the sky to mark the event. Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlights strong relationship between India and Israel on 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Campaigning gains momentum for first two phases of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Over 165 crore doses of COVID vaccines administered in the country so far. Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia virtually reviews COVID-19 situation and vaccination progress with eastern states. Government says over 7,400 Air India employees will get EPFO cover for social security benefits. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Lok Sabha Speaker convenes all-party meeting tomorrow ahead of budget session of Parliament. India supplies fourth batch of medical assistance to Afghanistan. And in tennis, Ashley Bharti wins her first Australian Open title, defeating Danielle in women's singles final. Rafael Nadal to take on Daniel Medvedev in men's singles summit clash tomorrow. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे।
Welcome back to the evening news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. This time, Mann Ki Baat will be broadcast from 11:30 a.m. instead of the usual 11 a.m. after observing the remembrances to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, on his death anniversary. This will be the 85th edition of the monthly radio program and the first episode of 2022. Ahead of the budget session of Parliament, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla has convened an all-party meeting tomorrow to ensure smooth functioning of the House. Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu has called an all-party meeting virtually on Monday. The government has also convened an all-party meeting on the same day to seek cooperation from all political parties for smooth functioning of the budget session. The meeting will be held virtually in view of the COVID-19 situation. Floor leaders of political parties in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha have been invited for the meeting. The budget session will begin on Monday with President Ramnath Kovind's address to both the Houses of Parliament. The Economic Survey 2021-22 will be tabled on the same day in Parliament. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the Union budget on the 1st of next month. Both the Houses of Parliament will function in shifts to ensure COVID safety protocol. The new protocol will come into effect from the 2nd of next month. Rajya Sabha proceedings will be held from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and Lok Sabha from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. The first part of the budget session will continue till the 11th of next month.
As part of its ongoing humanitarian assistance, India has supplied the fourth batch of medical assistance consisting of 3 tons of essential life-saving medicines to Afghanistan. The same was handed over to the Indira Gandhi Hospital, Kabul. The External Affairs Ministry in a statement said that India stands committed to continue its special relationship with the people of Afghanistan and provide humanitarian assistance. The External Affairs Ministry further added that in the coming weeks, the Government of India would be supplying more batches of humanitarian assistance consisting of medicines and food grains for the people of Afghanistan. And now, let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव। Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
Late 18th century witnessed the beginning of press in British India when the first English language newspaper, Bengal Gazette, was published in Kolkata on the 29th of January 1780. It was an Irish gentleman, James Augustus Hickey, who started publishing Bengal Gazette, a weekly newspaper which was also known as Calcutta General Advertiser. This was the first editorial effort in India to expose the corruption of the British government. Its slogan was, "Open to all, but influenced by none." People were greatly inspired by Hickey's brave attitude for revealing truth.
Soon thereafter, some employees of the British East India Company also started a newspaper named India Gazette. Thus, when the rival newspaper India Gazette was published, on the same day, Hickey changed the name of this newspaper to Hickey's Bengal Gazette.
Hickey's Bengal Gazette was a strong critic of the colonial administration. He fought against Governor General Hastings' corruption. He raised his voice for Indian sepoys. Articles about the Bengali poor were common in his newspaper. As a reply to this, Warren Hastings ordered the seizure of the printing press of the Bengal Gazette, and it ceased publication on the 30th of March 1782.
दिल पे ना कुछ गम रहे, हर घड़ी हर लहज़ा याद सीने से बाहम रहे.
We also remember Fazil Muhammad Khan and his associate who attained martyrdom on 29th of January 1858. Fazil Muhammad Khan and Adil Muhammad Khan of Bhopal were landlords who became one of the chief rebel leaders in the central India region during the revolt of 1857. After being inspired by Fazil Muhammad and Adil Muhammad, many soldiers of the nearby princely states plunged into the War of Independence.
During the revolt of 1857, sepoys of the Bhopal states who revolted against the British wanted to have control over the neighbouring region of Sagar, and the fort of Rahatgarh was the doorway to Sagar. However, Bhopal Nawab Begum Sikandar Jahan was against these sepoys and wanted to crush the mutiny. Thus the army of Bhopal state and the army of Fazil Muhammad Khan had a fierce battle at Rajgarhi in July 1857, in which sepoys won. The sepoys then helped drive away the British from adjoining areas and also took over the fort of Rahatgarh.
To control the sepoys, the British government then sent an army brigade from Mahon to Rahatgarh in January 1858. The British regiment was led by General Hugh Grose. The army of Bhopal Sikandar Begum was also supporting the British. On January the 25th, 1858, the British stormed the fort.
Hundreds of sepoys were martyred in the battle. Adil Muhammad Khan managed to escape and later remained in many revolutionary campaigns with Tatya Tope. Fazil Muhammad Khan was caught and was hanged at the door of the fort with other revolutionaries on January the 29th, 1858. We pay tributes to the brave sons of the soil.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
Best wishes to all consumers for Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Hallmark ensures purity of gold. Always purchase hallmarked gold jewelry. For any consumer-related complaints, please contact National Consumer Helpline's toll-free number 14404. Issued in public interest by Department of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. Jago Grahak Jago. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has expressed grief over the demise of social worker and Padma Shri awardee Baba Iqbal Singh. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he will be remembered for his efforts to increase education among youngsters. He said Baba Iqbal Singh tirelessly worked towards furthering social empowerment.
In tennis, world number 1 Ashley Bharti won her first Australian Open title after defeating Danielle Collins of the United States in the women's singles final at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne today. Top seed Bharti defeated 27th seed Collins in straight sets 6-3, 7-6. With the win, Bharti became the first Australian to claim a Grand Slam title on home soil in 44 years since Christine O'Neill in 1978. In the All-Australian men's doubles final, Nick Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis claimed their first major title with victory over compatriots Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell 7-5, 6-4 at Melbourne Park. In the men's singles final, 20-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal will clash with second seed Daniil Medvedev tomorrow. Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. The national capital Delhi is likely to have strong surface winds during daytime. The temperature will vary between 7 and 22 degrees Celsius. In Mumbai, the minimum temperature will be 18 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be around 33 degrees. In Chennai, the temperature will vary between 24 and 31 degrees Celsius. Kolkata will observe minimum temperature of 12 degrees Celsius and a maximum of around 23 degrees. In Srinagar, temperature will hover between -1 and 11 degrees Celsius. In Jammu, the minimum temperature will be 7 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 19 degrees. In Leh, the minimum and maximum temperature will hover between -16 and -1 degree Celsius. In Gilgit, the temperature will hover between 0 and 14 degrees Celsius. In Muzaffarabad, the minimum temperature will be 4 degrees and the maximum will be 18 degrees Celsius. In Bangalore, the minimum temperature will be 17 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 28 degrees. In Hyderabad, the temperature will hover between 13 and 30 degrees Celsius. Imphal will observe minimum temperature of 2 degrees Celsius and a maximum of around 22 degrees. In Shillong, the temperature will hover between 3 and 14 degrees Celsius. Kohima will have mainly clear sky. The maximum and minimum temperatures will be between 4 and 16 degrees Celsius. And in Itanagar, temperature will hover between 7 and 24 degrees Celsius. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Beating the retreat ceremony held with musical extravaganza at Vijay Chowk in national capital. Over 1,000 indigenous drones dazzled the sky to mark the event. Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlights strong relationship between India and Israel on 30th anniversary of diplomatic ties. Campaigning gains momentum for first 2 phases of assembly elections in Uttar Pradesh. Over 165 crore doses of COVID vaccines administered in the country so far. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia virtually reviews COVID-19 situation and the vaccination progress with eastern states. Government says over 7,400 Air India employees will get EPFO cover for social security benefits. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Lok Sabha Speaker convenes all-party meeting tomorrow ahead of the budget session of Parliament. India supplies 4th batch of medical assistance to Afghanistan. And in tennis, Ashley Bharti wins her first Australian Open title, defeating Danielle Collins in women's singles final. Rafael Nadal to take on Daniil Medvedev in men's singles summit clash tomorrow. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.